I didn't realize humiliation could sound like laughter echoing off crystal walls until the night it happened to me. 1 second, I was standing beside my husband at his birthday party trying to straighten his collar like I always did, and the next second, I was the punchline. Phones were up, smiles were wide, and I was standing there in a dress everyone decided was worth mocking. Yeah, that was the moment everything changed. Let me rewind a bit because none of this exploded out of nowhere. My name in this story is Claire Monroe. That's not the name on my passport, but it's the name I lived under, the name I chose when I decided I wanted a normal life. I was married to Daniel Brooks, a guy who loved attention, loved rooms full of people, loved being seen as successful. On paper, he was the founder of a rising tech company. In reality, most of what kept that company alive came from quiet places he never bothered to look. Daniel's 36th birthday was supposed to be a celebration. He rented a downtown ballroom, hired a DJ, brought in a cake that probably cost more than my first car. His family flew and his coworkers showed up dressed to impress, and I walked in wearing a soft gray dress I had altered myself. It wasn't designer, it wasn't flashy, but it mattered to me. It was the dress I wore years ago when Daniel first said, "I think I'm falling for you." Back then, he looked at me like I was enough. The room didn't see it that way. As soon as we walked in, I felt it. The looks, the quick glances down and back up. His mother, Evelyn, smiled at me the way people smile when they're already disappointed. "That's what you're wearing," she whispered, not really whispering. Daniel heard it. He didn't say anything. He just laughed and said, "You know Claire, she's low maintenance." People chuckled. I smiled and swallowed it like I always did. That was my role. The quiet wife, the supportive one, the woman who didn't make waves. When the cake came out and everyone crowded around, Daniel leaned toward me and muttered, "Fix my collar." I stepped closer, lifted my hands, and that's when it happened. The edge of my dress brushed a candle, a tiny flame, a quick burn. I jumped back and patted it out, my heart racing. There was a dark mark on the fabric now, ugly and obvious. For half a second, the room went quiet. Then Evelyn laughed. "Oh, for heaven's sake," she said loudly. "Maybe next year she'll dress like a wife, not the help." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Awkward at first, then louder. And Daniel. Daniel laughed too. He shook his head, smiling like it was harmless, like I wasn't standing right there trying not to disappear. That laugh did something to me. It wasn't loud anger, it was clarity, like a switch flipping in my chest. I excused myself, walked out into the cool night air, and stood there staring at the burn on my dress. That mark wasn't just on fabric, it was on years of silence. Years of swallowing comments, ignoring signs, choosing peace over respect. I pulled out a phone Daniel barely noticed existed and sent one message. "We're done waiting. Start the process." Here's the part no one at that party knew. Claire Monroe was just a cover. My real name was tied to a private investment firm I inherited from my father. I was 22 when he died, handed a company worth billions, and taught one rule that saved me that night. Never tie your power to someone else's ego. I ran everything under a separate name, separate accounts, separate world. Daniel thought I had some savings. He never asked more. He never cared to. Over the years, I quietly funded his company through shell investments. When his first investors pulled out, money showed up. When payroll was tight, a loan materialized. He called it luck. I called it protection. And when I started noticing the late-night calls, the secretive texts, the name Lydia lighting up his phone, I didn't confront him. I prepared. That night, while the party went on without me, I drove to an office building Daniel had never seen. The security guard greeted me by my real name. My assistant didn't ask why my dress was burned. My attorney already had the files ready. Account freezes, ownership documents, evidence of Daniel's affair, video from the party already sent to me by someone who thought it was funny. I signed everything calmly. No shaking hands, no tears. The next morning, Daniel woke up to chaos. Cards declined. Accounts locked. Emails he didn't understand. Documents delivered to the house explaining that the company he thought he owned was never his. He was a managing director, an employee. The house was in my name, the cars, the business, all of it. He found me packing one suitcase. "What is this?" he shouted. "What did you do?" I looked at him and said, "I stopped pretending." When he saw my name on the documents, the real one, his face went white. "You're telling me you're the one he whispered?" I nodded. I always was. The video from the party went viral that afternoon. 30 seconds. That's all it took. Him laughing. His mother's comment. Me standing there with a burned dress. Millions of views. Millions of opinions. People finally saw what I lived with quietly. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. At the courthouse, reporters shouted questions as I walked past Daniel. He tried to apologize, tried to explain. I didn't stop. Some doors don't close with yelling. They close with silence. Now I sit in an office with windows overlooking a city I helped shape, thinking about how strange it is that the same people who laughed at me couldn't recognize power when it stood right in front of them. I didn't win because I was richer. I won because I chose myself when it mattered. So here's what I want to ask you. When someone shows you who they are, especially in front of others, do you believe them? Or do you keep fixing their collar while they laugh? Tell me what you think. Was what I did justice, or was it revenge? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this if it hit close to home, and let's talk about how often quiet people are underestimated until they stop being quiet.